Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's so good to see you. Welcome, come on in. I hope you enjoy the different look, the setup for the YouTube studio. One question, how much would you pay to look at a medical school application? Do you think that would be valuable? If so, this video is going to be helpful because I'm going to go over my OMSAS application from 3 years ago, which is insane to think about it because I just finished my last OSCE test yesterday. And if I passed all my exams, that means I'm now in 4th year, my last year of medical school. So let's dive into it. I put together a PowerPoint presentation just to kind of go through it. I can draw on it for you and we'll walk through it. We'll just have a discussion here. You sit down, take notes. As I'm going through this, pretend this is live. Put down in the comments any questions you have. I will look after this video is uploaded. I will go through each comment and answer them. And maybe I can make a follow-up video answering each of your questions, okay? All right, so my OMSAS application, a comprehensive look at my application for your benefit. So there are a couple levels that I thought of. So you have the undergrad pathway, you have the GPA, you have the ABS, the autobiographical sketch, and then you also have the references. So these are the things that in your application, at least, the schools are going to be looking at, things that you can display for them to see. All right, so let's go into the journey to medicine from high school to medical school, which is a long journey, it feels like. What was my pathway? So I did 1 year of biblical foundations at the Word of Life Bible Institute. So it's just foundation 1 year. I actually didn't really include my GPA from that study period in applying just because it was different. It was a certificate, so I wasn't sure if universities would really accept it. And then I did a 4-year undergrad in biomedical biology at Laurentian University, and I had a gap year. So from high school to medical school, I had 1 year off or in between, and then another year off. So I'm kind of 2 years behind, let's say, people from born 95. My final application was in 2018, and I started in 2019. I applied to a couple schools, not too many, Nossum, Ottawa, Queens, and Western, and then I applied to quite a few schools in the States. I was, just trying to expand my horizons, and I applied to a lot, 2 years in a row. Very expensive process. My heart wasn't really in it, so I guess I probably didn't really put that much effort into the multiple essays that you have to write, which is a pain in the butt. So I am thankful to the Lord that I was able to come to Ottawa. So then out of all the schools that I applied to, I only got an interview at the University of Ottawa, and now I'm a 4th year medical student here. Amen. Now my GPA was around 3.93, but my MCAT was not competitive. So I knew that applying to like McMaster, applying to Toronto, those would not be a good option just because my CAR score was low, my overall MCAT score was not good. So I was like, okay, awesome, because I studied in Sudbury for a couple of years, and then Ottawa, and then I just applied to Queens and Western because I could. It took me 2 years, so I applied right from 3rd year and didn't get in right away. And then I graduated, took that gap year and applied and then got in. Okay, so moving on, let's look at what my first year of undergrad looked like course-wise. This will be more helpful for those of you who are maybe first year university student and you're looking at what kind of courses you want to take or that I took and what kind of grades I got. And I got my transcript just for this video to help you guys out. So I did my biology, I did biology 2, chem 1, chem 2, calculus 1, linear algebra, physics, those were hard exams, and then introduction to psychology. And allow me some room to walk down memory lane just so I can connect with you a little more if you feel down and out when you write midterms or finals. My first chemistry exam, this one where I got this A here, for the midterm, I got annihilated. I got slaughtered. I got the exam back and it was like 61, a 63, and I was devastated. I was like, I studied for this, I got wrecked. So the lesson that I ended up learning is what I did is, one, I started studying really hard for it, but not only that, I connected myself with people, with classmates that could teach me. So instead of paying a tutor $20 an hour or whatever it was, I began listening to who were the smart kids in the class or sitting around me. I started a conversation with them and we hung out, we did study sessions, and eventually they kind of tutored me and I learned. We did lots and lots of practice questions from old exams or from questions we found online. And I went from getting a 60 something on my midterm to finishing with an A. So just because you have a bad exam once does not mean that you are not smart or not capable. If you put your mind to it, you can do it with a lot of effort and hard work. Also, physics was hard. I remember I kind of had a rough exam. I ended up doing okay on it, but I did not feel good in the midterm there. So my cumulative, it was 8 out of 5 out of 10, because that's just how Laurentian did it. All right, second year. Did microbio, human anatomy. That was because of the professor, a quite easy class, just the way she examined us. So got very lucky there. Cell biology was horrible. One very challenging professor, very challenging topic, very dry. I remember I had classmates, really good friends sitting beside me. We were writing this midterm and they started crying towards the end. That's how hard this exam was. I did bad. I got must have been like a 51 or 50 something. The friends that were crying did fine. I did bad and I was like, oh, I gotta recover. And I studied hard and found some flashcards online that helped out a lot. But I really try to avoid these B's, but linear algebra and cell bio gave me them no matter what. Biochem 1, Orgo 1, and Orgo 2. So I thought at this point when I was doing organic chemistry, I thought, should I do 2? One was mandatory, but the second one. And when I considered options down the line, some universities required it, I figured, you know what? Organic chemistry was known as the dream crusher course because it's hard. A lot of people do poorly in it, but I figured if I do it, it's going to open doors to whatever else I want to do in the future in this academic space. Ended up doing it. I studied my butt off. I drew so many structures. I actually went to the professor's office before the midterm and I said, here's a piece of paper. Write me a series of questions. I will sit outside of your office and I will answer them, and then I want you to correct. Almost in that tone, I just showed up. I was like, hey, I need more practice questions. Can you draw for me on the piece of paper? And she did that and did 2 or 3 rounds of questioning. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for the exam. Ended up getting an A in the Dream Crusher. Took Spanish, bird course. I speak Portuguese. Olá, tudo bem? Eu converso português, nasci no Brasil. So if any of you guys speak Portuguese, we can have a chat. So Spanish was pretty easy to understand and learn. Statistics sucked, but you have to do it. And again, out of 10 here. Submit that one. All right, moving into third year. Human evolution, I heard as a bird course. It was genetics. Bird course because of the professor. He's very nice. Diversity of animals. And something that I wanted you guys to understand is if you can get connections with students above you that can tell you how the professor's like, how they test, what's on the test, that would help you so much, right? Because looking at this at face value, you're like, genetics is going to be very difficult. But if you talk to someone, you're like, you know what? This professor is super easy. Everybody gets like an A+, so might as well do it. And you check off like a biology requirement for medical school, okay? So undergrad is very strategic. This is where you need to pull out all the cards from your pocket, from your sleeves, and pick the bird courses that are beneficial, pick the bird course that you're interested in. Yeah, you're just interested, it might not really help you in life, like human evolution is not gonna help me ever, but it's easy and it checks off something that I need as a requirement and so on. So over the years, from like first to second year, you see how I had A's, A-, B's, B+, A-. Third year, mostly A+, 1 A-, and then we'll get to fourth year. So we did infectious diseases. That was a very challenging course. Experimental biology, natural products, biochem 2, indigenous perspectives on food, which is a bird course. It was interesting, actually, when I reflect on my experience now, where I want to go, very pivotal or foundational moment for me to understand how food is medicine, and that is now my passion. I love like chronic or preventing chronic diseases through diet and exercise and naturally like that. So this course impacted me in a significant way. Fourth year, remember, this is A+, all all here, A plus and then A minus. Now, fourth year, I really ironed out the wrinkles of difficult classes and things that I need to take. So now all this A pluses. I am not a genius. I just understood what courses were easier, what I needed to do, and I talked to friends who were able to kind of coach me along the way, saying like, this professor does this, do this on this project and such. And I had really good friends I could work with and study with to be able to do well on these exams. I remember for certain exams in third year, nucleic acids here, that I got an A plus. My friends and I, we sat down the week before the exam and we locked ourselves in a study room for hours on end and just cranked it out, quizzing each other, going through PowerPoints. Such a struggle back then. So internship, I was able to actually shadow a doctor at dermatology clinic for over 100 hours for this experience. Genetics, biomembranes, immune, more Aboriginal course, another Aboriginal course, and then physics of hearing and vision. So that is my course load. Those are the grades that I got. If you have questions about a specific course or how I studied or whatever, comment down below and I will answer that question. All right, so let's move on to autobiographical sketch. When I applied, there was 32 entries, 150 characters, and anything after the age of 16, okay? So very simple is what I did, and then the hours that I did roughly. I did construction work for summer, and I estimate it's about 240 hours. I was a student leader intern. So I worked with a pastor, I interned with him, I got paid to do it, and so that was a paid opportunity. It was amazing. I was also a standardized patient. I just interviewed a whole bunch of standardized patients yesterday for my OSCE at NASM. So if you're near medical school, you can literally get paid to become a challenge for medical students and you learn the process. And I was also a standardized patient for the MCC exams, which is kind of like the second round of licensing exams for doctors that they now did away with. I worked as a direct support professional for 700 hours. It was over 1 or 2 years. And then I was a videographer. Titles director of photography for a media company. It was a great experience. I did 900 hours of technology media director. This was during my Bible school year, that 1 year foundation. I was the media guy for everything. So I racked up a lot of experience with cameras, with editing. I was a student mentor during youth camp. I had 2 high school students. I was directly responsible with meeting, answering the questions, counseling them. Amazing experience. I shadowed some doctors in Brazil in orthopedic surgery. Very pivotal moment as well in gaining experiences in an ophthalmologist as well. I actually ended up using one of my experiences from this orthopedic rotation or shadowing in my medical school interview because of how impactful it was in my life. Now I'm going to say this, I don't believe you necessarily need to have clinical experience, have a chance to get into medical school. I believe majority don't, but it is to your benefit if you can shadow some doctors to get an understanding or a feel for how the clinic works. What's the work atmosphere? And then you can pimp the doctors, like ask them questions like about business, finances, why do they do what they want to do, and you get to work with the nurses as well. So very helpful. And I understand it's challenging, especially during this whole COVID kind of breakdown of the healthcare system and world. It's challenging to find those opportunities, but I recommend talking to your doctor or people that you know and just pitching them the idea of shadowing for a couple hours because that will be very helpful. Did some more media production at church. This is the skin clinic that I worked at. I coached or helped coach the high school soccer team, and when I was in grade 12 played soccer and I was a kicker. So those are just kind of extracurriculars that you throw in there. It shows that you're active, you're involved in school, you're athletic, you're challenging yourself, you're growing, you learn the dynamics of working a team, of being a leader, of being a follower. So these are the traits that you want to demonstrate to the medical schools. At my Bible college year, I was part of the drama team. I helped with children's ministry. It was a traveling team. We went to different churches and we sang songs, we led activities. Music team, so I was the tech guy for the music team. And then I titled this Men's Support Group Leader. This is going to answer some questions for those of you who have a faith background. So I was a Bible study leader during undergrad for the last 2 years. I led a group of men through some books in scripture. We went through a couple of other non-biblical books, but reflected on the Bible. And instead of putting straight up Bible study leader, in the case that I get somebody who's reviewing my application and they happen to hate religion, hate Christians for some reason, then I wanted to just be very neutral in the sense that, I was literally just supporting these guys. We're having heart-to-heart conversations, talking about life struggles, helping to grow emotionally, work out with each other, grow spiritually. So how could I summarize that in a way that would not trigger anybody and impact me, right? I'm not necessarily worried about triggering somebody. It's more so I don't want the backlash through somebody's trauma growing up to impact my ability to get into medical school. I also played guitar for a church during university, and then I led one of the clubs. I was the media director, actually. Last little bit, so I actually labeled these. So these are volunteer extracurriculars, and the first one was work. This one is actually awards and other. So I did travel to many countries. You can't really put hours of that. You just put, I think, a date range. I did compete for Skills Ontario competition. So any award that I got, Barrie Film Festival, a scholarship, if you're wondering, how do I put a scholarship? You just write it down for a reference for that. Because I was asked this past week, is you just find somebody you trust. You have a pastor, if you have like an employer, a boss, somebody else, maybe a friend, a coworker, you put them down so they can vouch for you that you got this scholarship. I got another scholarship to travel to Israel. Amazing experience. And then at that point I did CPR and first aid training. And then these two things are for the Christian Horizons work at a group home. All right. So moving on to ABS review. It's very challenging to word your experiences in less than 150 characters. It's never going to be easy. But one of the things that you want to focus is show, don't tell. So in your responsibilities tab here, I'll change to blue. You want to focus on verbs and adjectives that describe your experience, describe the actions you took and the lessons you learned, right? You don't want to just say, I did this. You want to almost paint a picture, the best picture in 150 words or characters or less, right? And this is going to be challenging. So 3 examples I put here. So as a student mentor, how do I describe that? I counseled a young staff member every week. So action, consistency, another action, helping, setting goals. We discussed emotions, so connection, and then I provided solutions if needed. So it shows that I sat down, had a conversation, heart to heart, and try to figure out how can I help this teenager. And if they brought that up in the interview, I could answer it. Bam, bam, thank you, Jim, and done. So reflecting on this student mentor, right, experience, let me erase some of this here. When we look at the CanMed roles, Canadian medical roles, what did I just demonstrate? Demonstrate that I am a communicator, counsel, we discuss, could be a collaborator, we're working together, kind of puts me in that leader role as well. And that's about it. I mean, providing solutions is helpful, but doesn't apply here. So moving on to direct support professional, I help integrate action and involvement, clients with disabilities in the community, aid in their personal growth, and I'm helping them grow personally, spiritually, whatever they needed, I was helping them with, and care with physical, and help them with physical activities. So again, this is going to involve communication, going to involve collaboration, leader, and then health advocate, right? Some of these clients could not advocate for their health. So it was in my responsibility to help them with that. Moving on to standardized patient ad nauseam, right? What do? I just sit there and rehearse some lines. But this is what I say: to simulate an actual patient and provide effective feedback to medical students from a patient's perspective. So here, it's communicating. I'm involved in the system of training medical students. And so I'm helping the next generation. So again, communication and collaborating. I'm not really a leader here. I'm not advocating. I'm not a scholar or professional, but you want to pick experiences that demonstrate a variety of these roles, of these characteristics or personalities, whatever. All right. And so remember, use verbs, use adjectives. You want to be very descriptive of what you did and how you learned. Again, if you have any questions about this section, comment them down below. I'll answer them. And very quickly, references. The referees that I had were a professor, an employer / pastor, and a doctor. So my immunology professor, he was game to write me a reference letter. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Employer and pastor. So pastor of my church, who I also interned with and worked with, he knew me very well, offered to write me a letter or a voucher me. So I was like, let's do it. And then the doctor that I worked at the skin clinic, dermatology clinic, she was a student and she studied at U Ottawa. I don't know if that does anything in the back end, but definitely beneficial to have a doctor who has seen you work and is from the same school. Not everybody can do that. All right, so that brings me to the end of this video. I hope this video was helpful. Don't forget to like this video, drop down your comments, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Right now, if you're a pre-med and you're applying to medical school, you have a whole bunch of friends who are panicking, who are stressed about the application process and how to word their ABS characters, right? Their responsibilities. So don't hold this information to yourself. Tell everybody, help them grow, right? Help. Rising tide lifts all ships, lifts all boats. So if you're being helped out, give value to your friends and send them this way, send this video to them. Until then, follow me on Instagram and I'll see you guys in the next video.